Here we go. Like one arming everything right now. I reach it over. And unlock that. And yeah, there you go. Let's see. There we go.
All right, fetching video stream.
Okay.
Hold on. All right, let's do this. And where's Cliff? Oh.
I don't know. The purple people eater ate him.
All right, I'm just gonna hit go live, and Cliff will join us when he means to. As an
I think he's getting his headphones or something. Maybe. I do not know.
All right, let's do this. Ready, set. Hi, everybody. You see the magic hands?
They're jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
Yeah.
Out of control.
He's going. Done that, yeah.
Welcome to Torn Tuesday. This is your weekly dose of all things Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I'm Justin, and we're joined on Skype by Beautiful Blinds and Hannah Took. What is your official Tolkien One Ring name?
Well,
let's start off. What's your Instagram handle?
Well, I'm Baggins is here.
On Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram.
But on Twitter.
I'm Cimmerillion28, but I'm also known as Hannah Took. So
Hannah Took, Cimmerillion28, and Baggins is here.
Yeah, I'm gonna become like the next Aragorn and have a lot of names. So, you know.
You wouldn't be a Tolkien fan if you didn't have 10 names, like Gandalf.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then Pete has a name for me as well, the Jewel of a you know. I could think of a lot of other ones.
How many names did Aragorn have? He had Aragorn, Strider, the Ranger,
he had like 12 or something.
Elisar. That's 4.
Let me pull up my PowerPoint.
Hold on. Who else in the chat room can tell us beyond those 4 names what Aragorn was called? Anyway, hello, welcome. This is your weekly dose of all things Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. We do this every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, and this is a live show, so we want to chat with you. We're live on Facebook. I'm watching the chat right now. It says, hi, Justin. Hi, Hannah, Larry, Kay, Caitlin. And then we've got another chat at theonering.net/live. And that's where our main chat room has been for many, many years. 6 years at least. We've been doing the show for 6 years. Sebastian A. Jones just joined the chat room.
Oh, yay. Hello, Sebastian.
He is in the middle of a Kickstarter right now. As you may remember, Sebastian Jones is the comic book publisher and writer and just all-around amazing guy that was working with Boromir, Sean Bean, on a graphic novel TV show, animated show called The Untamed. And he's got a new Kickstarter out. Look for it. Sebastian Jones on Kickstarter. Because it's Christmas time, and we all want to support indie artists, don't we?
Exactly. Whoa. There's magic music.
Yeah, I know. I'm hearing this
That
magic music. Someone's like doing the
That was
dishes in the
odd.
background.
Tom Bombadil gonna come? It's Tom Bombadil, guys. But yeah, no, it's the season of oh man, my mind like totally went blank. It's the season of giving and supporting.
That's right. And his
Yeah,
Kickstarter is called Brown Sugar Fairies. Oh, that's such a holiday name.
exactly. It goes. I mean, you're just obliged to give to him.
That's right. Hey, I'm getting so much glare in my glasses. I'm just going to take my glasses off. Hey, we got complaints
Oh,
from the
weird.
co-owner of the OneRing.net. I should say co-founder last week that my background wasn't Tolkien enough and it looked kind of creepy with just an empty bed. So I added
Oh,
a golem sign from One Last Party. You guys remember that. Puckworks is on Instagram. He has amazing Lord of the Rings graffiti all over New York City. And he designed this post for us, and he's amazing. And you should follow him. Puck Works on Instagram. And guess who decided to show up? This is Dirty Mouth Gandalf. If you remember, several years ago, Chris Hardwick took over this Gandalf and really had a go at voicing this character, and it was the dirtiest I've ever seen Chris Hardwick talk.
He was pissed. To be quite honest, I don't think we've ever been honest about this all these years, Justin. Can we be honest about that?
Well, that's what happens when we were sharing a space with the Hardwick himself. And let's remind people what show was Hardwick previewing. Like what were we competing with Hardwick? He was actually
at midnight. He was test driving at midnight.
He was
yeah. He was ready to invite all of the top brass executives from Comedy Central, and this was his big pitch. Everything was at stake for him. He wanted it to be a success. And
then our little podcast got in the way.
Yeah, and me and my smart mouth got in the way. I opened up my mouth and I was like, who the F are those people down there? Don't they know we're trying to do a show up here? And so he comes up and
Hardwick came upstairs.
Gandalf. I was the instigator. I'm sorry. I was the instigator. And you know what? After all these years later, Mr. Hardwick, if you're watching, I politely and sincerely apologize. I just didn't want to, get under your beautiful hairy feet. I just wanted to have a little airtime. That's all I wanted. Anyways, so.
Oh man, see what he did. Yeah. He made a grown man cry.
Sincerely. I shouldn't have been such a mouth. I was such a mouthy guy, and no wonder he got mad. It was my fault.
Yeah. Hey, I'm wearing my Star shirt again. This is my official Torn Tuesday shirt from here on out.
Good. You're the official. Now you saw the playback of me doing Justin as the Star pillow.
That's right. So I'm just going to stand right here, and you can talk to the Star.
Oh no.
Hilarious. Hey, we're getting messages on the hotline.
Hey, so let's talk about. There's so much to talk about in the Tolkien news. I mean, just every week there's so many awesome things. Not only about Tolkien and the estate and Amazon, but all of our favorite actors are doing amazing things. But the person who decided on this week's topic is Hannah. You texted me the other day and said, "What should we talk about?" And I said, "I don't know." And when you said, well, I want to talk about who I think should be cast in the new Lord of the Rings series. And already people in the chat room are like, nothing can be better than the cast that we've already seen, so they shouldn't even try. And I don't think that's the right perspective to have. Now, let's back up a bit, okay? We're coming at this from 3 different perspectives, okay? Cliff, you grew up reading the books, and you grew up with those animated series, right? Or did you experienced Tolkien for how many years in your life before those animated movies came out?
I was watching the animated movie in 1977 when I was 8 years old. Excuse me, I was maybe 8 and a half. And then the 9-year-old boy got his hands on The Hobbit, and I was reading The Hobbit over and over again. And then I read The Lord of the Rings in the ages of 11. I read The Lord of the Rings when I was 11.
So your first exposure was the animated movies.
And it drove me immediately to pick up the books. As many people have told us they experienced, a generation of people watched Peter Jackson's films, and the proof is in the publication numbers. Houghton Mifflin had the staggering spike in sales of all these books when Peter Jackson's trilogy was coming out. So yeah, those animated movies in the 70s brought me straight into Tolkien, and I've been very happy there ever since.
And I was a little behind you because by the time I was an age where I could appreciate the animated Hobbit, it was already in reruns. So,
Yeah.
you know, my family would say, oh, they're showing The Hobbit again, you have to watch this. Or they would bring home the Betamax tape.
You have to watch this.
And I would watch it, and everything looked creepy, and even the main characters looked kind of creepy. So it didn't feel new to me. It didn't feel like the movie was made for me. So it totally didn't inspire me to read the books or anything. And I didn't really become a fan until the movies came out, until Fellowship came out. And I even wasn't even a fan enough to see it on opening night. Like, I waited 3 weeks to watch Fellowship. And then I was instantly in love, and from then on, like, I was first in line, never. But Hannah, were you even born when the Fellowship of the Ring came out?
Okay, well, Fellowship of the Ring came out in like 2001, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Then yeah, I was I would have been 1. So yeah. So which is funny though, because my first exposure to anything Tolkien was when I was 2. So.
And you remember it?
Yeah, I remember it because it scared me. I was at my grandmother's house, and my cousin, who's we had, for the longest time, we had a relationship like Merry and Pippin. We were really close to each other. He was really, really fanatic about Lord of the Rings, and he's about like 3 years older than me, so he would have been about 5, I think. 5. I don't know. But he had an action figure of the cave troll, and he was watching that scene where like the cave troll pops out, and he's like, you know?
Yeah.
So that scared me as a little kid, and like I remember that because it scared me pretty badly.
The cave troll is one of the first scenes that they finished and was shown at the Cannes Festival, wasn't it, Cliff?
Yes, the entire Mines of Moria escape sequence, from the time they arrive in the Chamber of Mazarbul to Gandalf's fall. Well, not really. Actually, the end of the clip was when the Balrog makes his big appearance and gets his hero shot right in front of the camera. They don't even conclude the sequence. The Cannes film footage was one of the very first sequences that the special effects division of Weta had to work on to complete, because they had planned on showing it in the south of France at that festival. I remember the impact that had. And you know what? The cave troll makes everybody spill their drink. And yeah, Peter loves jump scares like that. It's the zombie movie maker in him. He loves scaring people.
He is first and foremost a horror filmmaker. His background is horror movies.
Indeed.
Yeah, especially if you watch Meet the Feebles.
Was not expecting
not a horror film.
What Meet the Feebles was. I thought it was like in line with Bubble Boy when it came out. It wasn't that.
Meet the Feebles is what people watching Wonder Chosen on MTV2 would definitely recognize as a vicious, really vicious, almost ghoulish parody of Jim Henson's The Muppets, to the point of insane, just insane. And do you think it's horrific? You think, Hannah, it's horrific?
Yeah,
I think it's hilarious. I think it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
That's I'm not gonna say it's one of my favorite movies, but I do enjoy that movie quite a bit, and I also enjoy. I don't want to say I enjoy this movie, but I think it is a good movie. Fritz the Cat.
Yeah, Fritz the Cat is in that range.
It's an interesting film. I have to say that, but
no one would watch Meet the Feebles and ever expect he would take up Lord of the Rings as a future project.
Yeah, exactly.
That's for sure.
I mean, some parts, especially like the Vietnam flashback, that's pretty horrific.
Yeah, it is. It is. Oh, and there's
funny.
There's a song and dance number that I won't even mention the title of the song because it's all about naughty things. It's really
bad.
crazy.
It's really bad. It's a funny movie, but I mean, like, Mark Hadlow in a really big hippo costume. Oh.
That wasn't. Was that Mark?
Yeah,
no!
It was. Yes. I'm being serious.
Our dear Nori, my friend Nori, was not that guy in that hippo. Walking out on that golf course? Walking out on that golf course in the hippo outfit. That was Mark Hadlow?
He was the woman.
Oh, the woman. Oh, the woman hippo. Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forget her name, but he was the woman hippo.
I didn't even Peter Jackson had a relationship going that far back.
The student becomes the master now.
I'm of the opinion, I really like what's going on in TV right now. Riverdale is amazing.
That's not the first example of what would say is fine, great.
But for rebooting Archie, they made Archie relevant.
Who's walking away with handfuls of primetime Emmys? Not Riverdale.
Not Riverdale?
Okay.
Just
who is walking away with fistfuls of primetime Emmy awards? It's Game of Thrones. People, come on.
But it is clear that a significant portion of Tolkien fandom, does not want Game of Thrones. That does not want a Lord of the Rings series that echoes Game of Thrones.
I think it's the most relevant example. And that's why I mentioned it first.
I don't want that.
When you want to talk about what's great in television and what interesting things they're doing, the gateway to even making a Game of Thrones series was only possible because of the commercial success and critical success of Peter Jackson. And look at what's happening with Chronicles of Shannara as well. It even jumped to another network, and that shows.
You were gonna say Chronicles of Narnia for a second.
Is it? No, I love Narnia too. But
I just kind of zoned out. I was like, yeah.
Why do you think there's a branch of fandom that doesn't want a new Lord of the Rings series to echo the success of Game of Thrones? Why should that be so? Hannah, what do you think?
Well, I've never really seen Game of Thrones. I've only seen select scenes. But, I mean, I can understand where they're coming from. But I can also understand the appeal of it. Like having, like big budget, big budget episodes and like having everything look good and all that, and having like the appeal of that. But also I understand Game of Thrones isn't exactly the most friendliest of things, but I think some scenes, like especially from the Silmarillion, can be as intense as Game of Thrones. So I mean, not to like, yeah, I'm gonna rip your eye out just because, But I mean, I think if it's placed in the right way, it can really emphasize like the emotion that they're trying to portray.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to look good. It's definitely not going to chintz out. Like, Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world, and he's fully committed to financially. Have you seen Runaways?
Sorry, radio silence.
Have you seen Runaways yet? Marvel's Runaways?
It's on Hulu. I've got my subscription to Hulu. I should start watching it.
So,
written by Brian K. Vaughan, one of the biggest voices in comics today?
It's a
I
younger
don't
skewed.
really watch the Marvel TV series, to be honest.
You don't watch it?
No, it's not really my cup of tea because, like, it kind of, I don't know, to me, it kind of has the same vibe as like all the other ones. Because we watched Agents of Shield for a little bit. We watched The Iron Fist. There was a few other ones I think we watched, right? No, just those two. I don't know. It isn't really my cup of tea.
There's a bunch of different Marvel TV series on Netflix, on Hulu, on ABC that are targeted to all different people. But I would say that Marvel Runaways on Hulu is amazing. Like it skews to the teenage group, and like a combination of Marvel Runaways with Riverdale, which is the Archie reboot. Like if just you have to give Riverdale a good shot. Like get through a whole season. I think it's on Netflix now.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Yeah, like I think there's something there. Like again, what Archie never spoke to me. Like it was a product of the 50s. I mean, Archie comics and all the Archie TV shows before this was like it felt like American Graffiti. Like, oh, my parents would have enjoyed Archie, and maybe that's why it was popular. But it never.
You mean when you were a kid, when you were really young, you wouldn't like see that on the store shelf when you were leaving the grocery and want to grab this colorful, bright little book with these illustrations that were like they really popped, and there was like comedy gags. There were funny physical comedy, and it was really very entertaining book for kids to pick up. You never picked up Archie when you were a kid?
Jughead, Veronica, Betty? I don't know. I forget who else is in it, but
yeah,
it just felt like a product of a different time. So when they announced that they were gonna do a new CW TV show of the Archie comics, everyone was like, "What?" But then you actually watch it and you're like, "Wow, this is good. This feels modern and everything like that." And it doesn't feel cheesy. It doesn't feel targeted at kids, and it doesn't feel exclusively like old jokes that only the old fans would get.
Well, that's because these advancements in the Archie comics universe happened way before the advent of the TV show. Has anyone been following recent Archie comics? They've introduced gay characters. They've introduced difficult political issues about how we treat veterans and our war heroes. They've dealt with if Archie Comics is going to go into the areas of dealing with the war against terror and gay marriage, and Archie Comics have been wildly updated and modernized. Rivendell took the show concept one step further than where the comics already were. Riverdale. I did say Rivendell. Yeah. Easy to get those names confused on a show like this, right?
Everyone thinks that this a Tolkien TV show will mirror the books, which is a story about some hobbits going on an adventure. And I think there's something really interesting. Your flub of the name becomes really interesting if a show called Rivendell is about a teenage Arwen falling for, or started hanging out with a misunderstood ranger.
I don't necessarily like this idea, but it is going to happen. It is going to happen.
Really?
I guarantee you. And I'm going to say two things at the same time. I don't think I necessarily like this idea, but it is going to happen. There's no way they're not going to try to connect the YA audience that has been feeding billions of dollars into late-stage Harry Potter, Hunger Games, and to some extent Maze Runner and other franchises, and for them to not want to see now, how weird is it for a human to get involved with an immortal? And when is that story more interesting? When they're both 60 years old? Or is it more interesting when they're in their 20s? At least maybe Arwen is much, much older than Aragorn himself. I'll have to look that up. But if I were a writer, and if I was sitting in the writing room with them, with the Bezos' people at Amazon, I would say, yeah, this is really difficult because you're going to aggravate and piss off a lot of Tolkien fans who don't want you to screw this up. And yet, what quadrant of the story is most dynamic and interesting? Well, it might be when Aragorn is struggling with his identity, struggling with guilt. How about wrapping it up with the death of his mother? The death of his mother and maybe his estrangement from all of his people, all of his kin, because he's the protected one hiding in Rivendell. It might be a totally weird dynamic for him to explore as a young man a relationship with her, and she's immortal, way out of his league. If I were a writer in the writer's room, I would say, yeah, we've got to do this. We must do this story, but we can't F it up.
Well, you talk about YA novels, and YA means young adult, so let's go to the young adult in the room.
Follow the money.
Why do you hesitate? Shouldn't this be exactly what you're looking for?
No. Not at all. Okay, like, I don't know, for me personally, I'm just trying to think how to word it. Like, for me personally, I really don't like young adult stories because I think it's it's copy and pasted. Literally. It's the exact same thing. It's like this special snowflake is trying to, discover themselves, and misadventures happen along the way. And, I mean, yeah, it's a part of growing up and everything, but it's just been done to death. I don't know. Personally, I don't enjoy those kind of stories, and I wouldn't like to see like a Aragorn and Arwen. Like in that kind of a thing. I think they should, I like the idea of, them being young adults, but not following that kind of a plot, I don't know.
I think it's better to advance his years as a character, and with Aragorn having a little bit of salt and dirt under his feet, he might be able to have the cojones to approach her, and like it might be different then. Maybe. Okay.
Are you a fan of John
maybe
Green?
They're just trying to like understand each other or something like that, and then like she helps him like get through like his guilt and everything to become like a better person,
Are you a fan of anything that John Green has made? Are you a fan of that genre of stories? John Green, of course, I think he did The Fault in Our Stars and Paper Towns.
I've never read the John Green book.
Okay. Did you like The Hunger Games?
No.
Did you like Divergent?
No.
Did you?
Okay. Did you like Harry Potter?
Yes.
Did you appreciate the area where she took it when we're with like year 6 and year 7, where things are much more serious for Harry? Like late stage Harry Potter is usually where young adult novels strive to achieve that level of narrative success.
Yeah. I mean,
like, if you do something
like that, then like that's fine,
I feel weird that I'm the only one in the room that enjoyed these young adult movies. Okay. Paper Towns was great. Percy Jackson had faults.
The movies were terrible, but I really liked the books. I haven't read them in a while, but I was a big fan of the books, as was my cousin. Actually, the same one that terrorized me. I should say terrorized me.
Well,
but
there's a question we just got on the chat. Again, the phone number is scrolling along the bottom. You can text us.
Okay.
But they say, my biggest concern about the Amazon project is changing fundamentally the story or the characters. And let me ask you this. Let's start with Anna. If they did go down the route of exploring Arwen and Aragorn's budding friendship, romance, that obviously her dad does not appreciate, and we get the tail end of that in the movies. Nothing that they could do in the series would really affect what happens in the movies, because we already know that dad doesn't approve.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that they can do with Arwen and Aragorn that won't affect the later timeline.
Yeah.
So do you think there's something interesting there in being able to play with these characters and you know what happens?
I mean, yeah, there certainly is something that you could play around there, because I mean, in like Peter Jackson's movies, or just in general, like, you know enough about the relationship, but you don't know like the whole detail about it. But my mind just like totally went blank. I'm sorry. I was gonna say something. I went.
Cliff, I mean, the same question. Do you think, you know, how could they change, or you know, how did they phrase it? Changing fundamentally the story or the characters.
There is no way that the fans will let them get away with this. If the characters are fundamentally changed, there will be blood on the streets.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you, from what you know of the deal, as little as we know, Cliff, do you think or have any inclination that the Tolkien estate is taking a little more hands-on approach to this project?
There's no need to worry that they're going to abuse a license that they just paid $250 million for. Come on. They're not going to have the intention to fundamentally change the characters. What they're going to fundamentally change are dates, they're going to compress time, and geography. They're guilty of doing that all the time. They do it in Westeros. Peter Jackson did it in 6 films. A lot. Especially the end of the Paths of the Dead, when Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn come out of the mountain, and all of a sudden they look, oh look, there's the evil corsair ships there on the river, right below us a few hundred yards away. Well, no, there was actually another 130 miles away from the point of finding the river's edge by the time they came out of the Paths of the Dead. They're going to compress geography and time. Characters, however, they've got to get right. And they don't have to go far astray from the content that's already in the pages of Tolkien. No. They have a rich characterizations of these characters already. So
what do you mean get right? Explain get right. Why do you mean these characters have to get right?
The characters, you will expect more verisimilitude in a project like this with the characters and the resonance that they have, but you can expect them to play fast and loose with magic artifacts or tricks of geography or compression of time. You know, writers' tricks. These are the conceits that writers do when they are using a limited format of 10 episodes for one season. And we have a lot of broader considerations before talking about getting the characters right. I mean, they want to get a decision made about how stories are broken down season by season by season. And therefore, if Aragorn is going to appear in 2 out of 5 whole seasons, then they want to consider his story arc over a longer couple of seasons. If they only use Aragorn once and they wander off to way other different really different anthology storylines, like going off to Angmar and stuff that happened way before Aragorn was born, then the writers are going to consider how they handle the character's arc based upon those decisions. We don't even know the basics yet about how the format of this show is going to be broken down. Given some basic assumptions, let's assume that they'll do this like American Horror Story, or they might do it like Black Mirror, where there's really separate stories per hour, per episode, or maybe just one season carries one specific arc. It's a self-contained arc, and we won't revisit those same characters again. So we'll have to see what strata of storytelling we get. Beyond that, I trust that they're going to mess around with everything else, but not the characters. The characters, I think they're going to stick with Tolkien as much as they can.
Let me tell you where I'm coming from, because Bethany Myers in the chat room asked, Justin, why do you need that explained? Characters are the biggest gems of the series. I'm coming at this because I love the movies, The Lord of the Rings, as we all do. And I love Faramir in the movies. And every time I talk to a Tolkien fundamentalist, a book lover, it is a very, very passionate, intense debate where they say that Faramir, the character, is completely obliterated by the films. And I'm coming from it like, I love his character, I love his motivations, I love his decision making process. I think everything in the movies makes sense for Faramir. I'm totally ignoring how he was in the books. So this is why I want to ask, when someone like you says they better get these characters right, it's like, who's right? Because I love what they did with Faramir. I love that. I love that the hobbits ended up at when Sam gave the speech, at the end of Two Towers. They weren't even supposed to be there, according to the books, in that location. So
there's a hurt button.
It's like.
Let me tell you, who's right? J.R.R. Tolkien is right.
But you're telling me Faramir.
When fans tell you Faramir in the book is just as great as Faramir that you love in the movies, but better. He's a couple of notches better. He's still your Faramir. They didn't really go so far afield. What they used was a conceit of story.
I feel like the WWE brawl is going to break out.
Telling you, they only wanted to get the hobbits all the way to Osgiliath. That was a conceit of probably Philippa or Fran. I don't know if Peter had thought of that himself. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, they didn't really go so far afield from the real Faramir that's in the books. But when in doubt, Mariadoc, always follow your nose.
Bethany, I did
always
the movies
go back to Tolkien.
I mean, Hannah, you've read the books. You saw the movies first, and then you read the books. Did you like Faramir more
right back.
in one way or another?
Indeed.
And Hannah's frozen, and Cliff left.
No, not really. Oh no, am I frozen?
Oh no, I see you.
Let it go. Oh, okay, I'm done.
Faramir in the movies was amazing. He's different than he is in the books, but that's why I think like both can exist. It's not one or the other, and I think fans coming in with this anticipation or expectation don't change the characters. It's like, no, it's okay. You did good with Faramir.
I think, I mean, at least for me, when it comes to the idea of like changing characters, I think it's okay to a certain degree, as long as you can keep them like recognizable, like, actually I'm looking at this little PowerPoint presentation I made. If it was, if it was up to me for the casting, this is kind of a wild choice, but I think I would want Dave Patel as, or Dev Patel as young Aragorn. I mean, I think if you keep the character recognizable, then it would be fine.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of leeway in what's possible. Now, people are chatting and texting. When can we expect some news of casting or a trailer? Definitely not anytime soon. I don't even expect anything to show at San Diego Comic-Con next July.
July afterwards or something.
Maybe the fact that there's no creative people attached to the project yet. Cliff, we were just getting asked on the hotline, when can we expect a trailer? And I'm like, I don't think San Diego Comic-Con next year will even have anything to show. I think we're looking at a 2019 filming date and possibly a release in 2020. So we're talking 2 years away.
We are, and we're looking at the earliest casting announcements at the end of 2018. So let's wait for the Earth to go around the sun one more time.
I think what we might see it.
I'm gonna be an adult next year.
Oh dear, don't do it.
So you're aging out of the young adult series, right?
Yes.
Jenna Coleman as Arwen. We a bunch of people have tweeted this as well. Jenna Coleman as Arwen. I'm having trouble kind of placing Jenna Coleman. What was she in?
IMDb. I don't know. I don't know Jenna Coleman. Sorry.
Jenna.
I should know
She's
better.
in Doctor Who.
Oh.
She's in a bunch
of that's right.
a bunch of TV or British shows.
Yeah, here she is. Oh, hello. How lovely. You know what? Yes. Yes. Here, let me find the camera.
Yeah?
The answer is yes.
I could see it. Maybe.
I mean,
yes.
Who did you have in mind? She
has a small elfin nose. She has a cute elfin nose. I say yes.
Me. I'm just kidding. No.
You also have a cute elfin nose. Also, that's cute.
So I take off my glasses.
Does anybody wear glasses in Middle Earth? I'm trying to think. Does Gandalf wear glasses?
Oh. He wears contacts.
The only person I've ever heard depicted wearing any glasses, I don't think anybody. Some of the hobbits, maybe, were mentioned with glasses. Bilbo, did Bilbo have spectacles in his old age? When he was really old in Rivendell? With his spectacles sliding down his nose when he falls asleep during the Council of Elrond?
I don't think so.
Maybe Bilbo himself had. No, that was the cartoon from the 70s.
Yeah.
That Bilbo had glasses.
Well, Hannah, have you given any thought to who, people that you would like to see cast in Middle Earth? For any characters or even non-characters, just people you want to see?
Let's start with this question. Should we have any existing characters cross over from the 6 films joining new cast? All new cast, but maybe 1 or 2 special characters that are held over from Peter's 6 films. Is that a thing we should do?
Gandalf.
Gandalf should be in it?
Okay. I think in special.
Wouldn't that be amazing if Ian did that?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I can't see anybody else as Gandalf. Ian is my Gandalf.
Yeah.
Hashtag not my Gandalf, but I'm sorry, I had to. No, but I can't see anybody else as Gandalf. I think it would be cool if he came in for a few episodes, kind of here and there, special guests, That'd be really cool. Actually, I do have a few people that I would really campaign for to kind of be casted.
Like who?
Okay, so they might be weird choices, but I'll explain as to why. Finn Wolfhard, the little kid from Stranger Things?
Yep.
Exceptional. Yes. Exceptional. Yes.
He would be a really good young Frodo.
Oh, yeah. Yes, he would.
Be a really good young Frodo.
He'd be a great young Frodo, but he'd have to wear big blue contact lenses.
Yeah. I was saying earlier.
This as Frodo? Okay.
Young Frodo. Yep.
I think Dev Patel would be good as young Aragorn, the guy from Lion.
Yeah.
I could see him as young Aragorn.
Wow, now this is fascinating. A non-white actor, a person of color, playing one of our typically white Northern European archetypes that we have from Tolkien. That's interesting casting. Yeah.
I mean, if I'm the director, then these are the people that I would cast. Personally, I just kind of put together my little dream cast. This one's also I'll explain why, but I really want to see Tom Bombadil and Goldberry in the I was going to say film, in the TV series. And if it was up to me, I would. It's funny. They're both Hamilton actors. I would want. I know you guys are laughing.
Broadway stars that we don't know. Oh, did we lose you, Hannah? Who are they? Who are they?
Like Tom Bombadil.
Who?
He would be good. David Diggs.
David Diggs?
Yeah, he plays Thomas Jefferson and Lafayette in Hamilton. He'd be really good because, like, for his Thomas Jefferson, he's like, you know, I don't know. I mean, like, I can just totally see him in the role of Tom Bombadil.
This Tom Bombadil, David Diggs as Tom Bombadil. He does have a quality about him that is reminiscent of our favorite Radagast and Doctor Who actor.
Sylvester McCoy.
Sylvester McCoy. He's got the bow tie and the wild hair and. Does he have mannerisms in Hamilton that remind you of Bombadil?
Yeah, I mean, like, from the clips that I've watched of his performance, like, I'm not too sure how to explain it, but he's like kind of, when I think of Tom Bombadil, I think of like him kind of like moving quickly or like kind of bouncing around, you know?
Oh, constantly. Yeah, very sprightly. Yeah. He looks like he's got the twinkle of mischief and Tom Bombadil in his eyes. Like, he could be mischievous, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, when he does Thomas Jefferson, that's how he moves.
Yeah.
And like, I could just totally see it. I really, really want him as a Dreamcast, obviously, to be Tom Bombadil. As for Goldberry as well, which is another Hamilton cast member, is Philippa Sue as Goldberry.
Philippa Sue?
Like, she plays Eliza.
Oh, really? I'm looking her up now, too. We're all looking up this person.
But yeah, no, I mean, like, she has this quality about her, like, also her performance is, like, really sweet, and when I think of Goldberry, I think of, like, kind of like a mom, like a hippie mom, kind of, you know? They're like just a really, really sweet person who also was kind of the inspiration for one of my characters named Opal. So, yeah, no, like, I could just see her in the role of Goldberry because, like, her role in as Eliza was a lot like Goldberry's as well. I mean, reminded me of Goldberry, even though we don't have too much on Goldberry, you know? Because it's like, she waits. She sings. She cooks. She waits. She's waiting some more. She's waiting and waiting. It's okay. I'm waiting for the Beetlegeist too. It's fine.
You know, we got
even though
a suggestion in the chat room. Timothy Chalamet for Frodo.
Timothy.
And I kind of see it.
Let me look this up. I just looked up Tim.
I just looked up
Timothy Chalamet, Chamalet for Frodo. He does look like a hobbit. You put some curls on him, and he's got that jawline that Elijah Wood has.
When I think of Goldberry, forgive me, but I think of Brie Larson.
Ooh, good one.
When I think of Goldberry, I think of Brie Larson as Goldberry, but you'd have to give her a lot more to do in that story, and we'd have to explore something of these characters a little bit more than what Tolkien himself gives us in the text.
Hey,
you're right, Hannah. She's got to do more than just bring in lily pads into the room and
yeah.
and serve them porridge in the morning.
Hey, Cliff.
She's got to have something to do.
Dave Gentry in the chat room says, I picture Tom as fat, short, hairy guy. Is there anything in the literature that gives the casting directors some kind of leeway into, you know, that's the first thing people go to, is that every Hobbit is short and fat, you know, Tom Bombadil's
Tom
short.
Bombadil is not a Hobbit. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Hobbits are very described specifically. Hobbits, we know exactly what they look like because Tolkien goes on and on for chapters about what hobbits are like. But Tom Bombadil is he's depicted as a recreation of a cute little doll that his kids played with, and his kids loved it, and he made up stories and poems about Tom Bombadil based on this stuffed toy that the kids had in the Tolkien household. So he was like a merry little fellow, like a miniature combination of Santa Claus and an oversized leprechaun. And he was bigger than the hobbits, but not by much. In all the paintings and all the illustrations from the 60s and 70s, Tom Bombadil is depicted as a dwarf-looking guy with a big merry beard and twinkling eyes and running around in a big hat with a big yellow feather in his hat and bright yellow boots. And he's quite silly. And back in the 1999 era, people were always talking about Robin Williams as being the ultimate casting to play jovial, really, I mean, he's filled with mirth, but he has a special kind of Robin Williams mirth where he really does make things happen, and he puts the ring on and it doesn't affect him. He's the only person in all of creation that can have that happen to. And he seems to be kind of outside Middle-earth in funny ways. So I would go back to the comedic, like really good comedic talents of Robin Williams. And nowadays, since we don't have Robin anymore, I would consider Jack Black as a possibility for the role of Tom Bombadil.
Are you sure he's supposed to be a chubby character?
Yep, he could be, exactly. But Jack Black can be... What do you think? What are you laughing at?
I'm just imagining Jack Black as Tom Bombadil.
I think he'd be great. But imagine he'd be under lots of prosthetics, beard and makeup and everything.
Skadoosh.
No.
He goes,
imagine.
Hey, those are the Lord's chips.
No. Just imagine how lively he would be. Really lively.
He looks to the eagles. Eagle powers, come to me.
Oh, gosh.
I really hope that you get what I'm referencing. I really hope you get what I'm referencing.
I get it. I totally get it.
Good.
I didn't know you were a fan. I did not know.
I'm mainly Hispanic. Of course I am.
Okay.
How would I not be?
Hey, Cliff.
Okay, you're right.
Cliff,
you're right. You're right.
Cliff, you know, I want to go back.
Going to be thinking about.
I want to go back to this guy. That
you know what? All that matters is the energy in his eyes, because anybody playing Tom Bombadil is going to be buried under prosthetics and a huge beard and a hat, and you have to have some life in you. And God willing, I'm going to get a chance to see Hamilton. And I would like to see I'll watch his online video of his performance. But if he's got that kind of comedic step and that energy, Tom Bombadil was going to uplift the room. And as if he uplifts the spirits of the hobbits in one of their worst positions ever. And he actually shuts down the power of the Barrow Wights in a remarkable way and shatters the tombs. So,
hey, let me ask you this, Cliff. In all the descriptions of these characters,
it can be a bit serious at the end. The Tom Bombadil character actually does bring in a surprise thunderclap of godlike power at the end of that episode. So he has to be an actor has to be able to do that too, not just to be all sparkling and funny and bright, but he has to be able to bring it at the end, right?
You know who would be kind of funny? Just one last thing.
What?
Will Ferrell.
Great idea. I go for
Will
that.
Ferrell would be pretty funny.
Yep, I like that idea. Will Ferrell could do that
As
role.
Tom Bombadil?
Absolutely, that would be great stunt casting. That would be great stunt casting. I love that idea.
I'm not on board with that. Hey, let me ask you.
Well,
let me ask you this. Tolkien famously wrote the Lord of the Rings to be a myth for England. Like,
yes, England didn't have a sufficient myth of its own.
So the first reaction that we had in the chat room, some people in the chat room, the minute Hannah was like, "Oh, we should get some of the Hamilton actors to play some of these characters," and the first thing that people come up was political correctness run amok. Tolkien will never approve, and I think there's a mentality of, because Tolkien wrote this as a myth and a legendarium for England, by and of England, that people think that every character should be white. And I don't think that's accurate. I think England, especially when Tolkien was writing, and the history of England is England ruled a third of the world at one point, and London itself was a melting pot of cultures, and England has the biggest. London has a huge, Indian culture. Some of the best curry I've ever eaten was in London.
Still true today.
And of course, it's just a melting pot. London is a melting pot. So I wonder if there's.
So was Lake Town. The way that Peter Jackson depicted Lake Town, it was a little town of where crossroads of commerce and different people and cultures had come together. And
so when Hannah says let's get Dev Patel as a young Aragorn, I don't think that's out of line, and I think what's your opinion? Would this be true to Tolkien's intent to cast actors that aren't white?
Oh wait, do you want to go first?
My only thing to say to that is, why not? Why not? Even though there is a real specific Northern European geosphere, all the Lord of the Rings and the stories of Arda are mainly in what is most of the narrative is concerned with that area where all these white folks live. But there were other cultures and other people of color in Middle-earth, and Tolkien wrote about them. And Faramir actually, has that great moment where he looks at the fallen enemy and he says, I wonder what lies and fears were told to this person that he should march so far away from home, from the safety of his home and his family, and come off to be part of Sauron's war, And it was originally, dialogue that was interior dialogue for Samwise. Tolkien wrote that as Samwise having a deeper consideration. As a hobbit, this is remarkable because hobbits never consider things outside of their world. And nowadays, we have to consider things outside of our world and think outside of the box a little bit. This is the modern world. Multiculturalism is a thing, and why shouldn't it be kind of cool to have some interesting people of color in certain roles?
So
how long did it take for Gene Roddenberry and Paramount and the Star Trek universe to introduce African-American Vulcans, black Vulcans, Tuvok in Star Trek Voyager? It took 4 series before Paramount would have the balls to include that level of multiculturalism on the bridge, where they were thinking not all Vulcans have to be white. So it can happen. It can happen.
How do we as fans? I'm all on board for this, and I love Hannah's casting for Dev Patel as a young Aragorn. How do we?
I kind of dig that too.
How do we as fans anticipate and navigate that public discourse, that conversation that will inevitably come up of, if they start going to the Hamilton well of talent, as Tom Bombadil, people will be in uproars for those reasons I just discussed. Is like Tolkien is from England and England is white people. It's like, no, it's not.
Well, as much as you like Riverdale, this new incarnation of Archie, the whole lead cast looks a little bit white to me. At first glance, it really does. Looks, you know what I mean? So I look at other shows like, you know, the way that Marvel is running the Defenders, and I really dig. Well, you know, hey, we're all talking about multiculturalism, and if Professor Tolkien really wanted to stick with pure Nordic, he really got into that detail with Rohan and certain tribes, certain races. They were really specifically as white as porcelain. They really were.
Yeah. Rohan was.
They have to be, because that's the way that is. But you can get a little bit of wiggle room in some other characters and have other touches of ethnicity. Why not? Hannah, please let me shut up and let you talk.
Well, I definitely agree with you. I mean, if Tolkien, specifically says that, like, oh yeah, the tribe of Rohan is, like, you know, Caucasian, then, you know, you're going to follow that. But I think, you know, if he doesn't go into detail about other races, I've seen a lot of fan art of, I'm forgetting the character's name, but one of the first ever dwarves talking to, like, the first elves. Like, the artist painted him African. I was going to say African American, but, you know, a darker skin. So, you know, I think there's definitely room for, you know, ethnicity. And, you know, I think when people react negatively to that, you know, unless it's something like, oh yeah, we changed Black Panther into a white guy, then, you know, I would understand. But I mean, like, if you're having an Indian actor, you know, or an African American actor play, or a, you know, Asian actor or whatever, play, you know, a Caucasian guy, or, you know, whatever. I mean, look at the animated Lord of the Rings. They made Aragorn look like a Native American.
Very specifically, he looks like a copper-colored character from Disney doing the Indians in Peter Pan.
Yeah,
literally.
Exactly. And I mean, like, you know, I know that this would also make a lot of people happy, and I mean, it would give a lot of people representation, because, you know,
now let's say the Númenóreans. What if the Númenóreans do have something of a different bloodline, and they really are people of color, and that's Aragorn's line? Maybe all the Númenóreans are going to be depicted totally different race, as, yeah, you know. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, like, I know that, like, just for an example, one of my best friends, he's full Native American, but you know, like, there's not really any Native American characters for, you know, him to relate to, or, you know, there's not nearly as much for African American, or, you know, Chinese, or you know, Hispanic, or, I mean, there are some, but there's, like, not as much. Which, you know, I'm not saying, like, oh yeah, there can't be, you know, white characters too. You know, it's just,
let me ask you this.
It shouldn't matter what the color of the skin is.
Cliff, is there any notes from Tolkien, letters from Tolkien, any literature that from Tolkien himself that discusses such matters that we can point to, you know, if inevitably this you know, the casting becomes a you know, if we go down this path of casting, you know, is there anything we can point to that Tolkien said, like, look, multiculturalism is fine, this isn't, you know, identity politics run amok, this is true to Tolkien? Is there anything that kind of opens that door from the writings of Tolkien?
There's a there's not so much like Tolkien talking about different this is hard to phrase.
Yeah, it's a difficult discussion. I will say what John Ben Asher in the chat room just said, which is the first thing to say is, let's remember a major theme of all of Tolkien's work is multiculturalism, interracial cooperation. It's in the literature.
Exactly.
Yeah, the mirror replacement, or the, if you're looking for analogs and the really strict, you could say these races of dwarves and elves and even the Pukal men in the mountains in between Gondor and Rohan, or the Ents themselves, the orcs, all these, and the Southrons, all these different races replace or analogous to other races, and that's what science fiction also does. They have aliens fill in for the parts of our contemporary racial strife that we have amongst ourselves in our one species. So you can look for that, but Tolkien was not really big on things being direct analogy. He thought that applicability was more important, and he didn't want to be so ham-fisted in instructing the reader what to recognize as symbols, or dictating to the reader what these symbols meant. He thought that applicability was the game in this kind of writing style. For him, it could be applicable to different generations of people. Years later, they would see other connections with the strife between different races, and the conversation would shift, and people would find different generational relationships to the story, instead of him being so strict with what C.S. Lewis did, which was very specific with his analogies of what characters were. In Narnia, certain characters equal very specific, equations to our world.
Yeah, Eravani,
and that's kind of like what makes Tolkien timeless,
Yes, indeed. I agree.
Eravani in the chat room says that if we ever miraculously get a Silmarillion adaptation, I think the Valar especially should include a wide variety of races, and I would want Lupita Nyong'o as Yavanna.
Wow, that'd be awesome. Yeah. That'd be so awesome. Imagine some of the gods and goddesses just being like, wow, these angelic beings, the Valar. I'd love to talk about some casting, but the Silmarillion's not going to happen anytime soon. But let's talk about something that might come out of the. Ooh, no, not yet. Let's not put the cart before the horse, before the apples. How about
once they meet me, give me the rights. Don't worry.
We'll get that to you, Hannah.
I got
but seriously, though, I want to know if you guys.
Justin, back me up.
You're on your own, director. Directors make decisions. I'm not in that world. Cliff, what were you going to ask?
I was going to say, don't you guys think that having one or two characters that are directly from Peter Jackson's universe be part of this TV series to anchor it? But the problem is, if you do it with one of them, you're going to have to do it over and over. You can't just have Hugo Weaving show up and not have Ian McKellen and not have Cate Blanchett. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe they're going to scratch that whole idea. And then comes the horrifying concept of who is the actor who wants to step into Sir Ian McKellen's shoes and walk in that shadow. Nobody could ever step up to that role and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to do Gandalf now. How do you do that?
Well,
how do you do that?
I will say that real quick. Someone just texted. Brendan Thwaites could be a young Aragorn.
Sure could.
He most recently was Orlando Bloom's son in Pirates of the Caribbean, the latest.
Yes, he was,
and he has the look. So that is a good casting. But I'm the more I think about Dev Patel, the more it just makes sense. I think he's the right age. I think he's got enough character in his face at this point in his career and life that he could be.
Yeah.
But to your point, I tweeted this earlier this week or last week, and I wanted to get I wanted you to fact check me, Cliff. I tweeted out
Right.
if Sam was given the Red Book of Westmarch, the book that Bilbo wrote The Hobbit in, that Frodo wrote The Lord of the Rings in, and then they give the book to Sam and said, this is yours to complete. So Sam, he becomes mayor for 6 terms. I mean, he has a long life because he carried the ring. So Sam, could he
carried the ring for 3 minutes. He didn't get affected by the ring.
Okay.
But he did have a very fruitful and you could say he had a storied career. He had quite a career in the Shire.
So
this is true.
Would it make sense to have, if we never see him, but we just have the voice of Sean Astin as Samwise being the narrator of this series? Kind of like the voice you hear on Desperate Housewives or so many other shows of just like you never see the narrator, but you know that these stories are being told by Samwise at the beginning of each episode. What
I love it.
Does that make sense? Is that tonally,
It does.
is that Legendarium approved?
I love that idea. I loved it since you tweeted that, and honestly, the idea of having Sean Astin be an omniscient narrator is brilliant, and I don't think it's an offer he could refuse. I don't think anybody could say no to that idea. That'd be great.
I think it's a good idea. I was just laughing because you were saying like a Desperate Housewives, and then I thought to myself, Desperate Elf Wives.
Oh God! Oh God! Elf Wives.
There's not Grand Wives on there.
Well,
crazy.
That's what I'm saying is that there are a lot of tropes that are unique to television that make television that help a television series versus Lord of the Rings. Remember when we first saw Lord of the Rings, when Fellowship opens, it opens with a narration from Galadriel, right? And for the first 15 minutes, we get the history of Middle Earth as told by Galadriel.
It's awesome because the audience is in total darkness for 60 seconds while she speaks in Elvish, and it's disorienting. Nobody knows what's going on at first. It is one of the most awesome openings of a movie ever. And you're right, Justin. It picks up the idea of a narrator somewhere being an omniscient storyteller. So I like that. I like that idea.
The thing that I really think works for this is by having Sean Astin as Samwise be an invisible narrator to the series, it connects everything. It connects the books and the movies without having to cast the same actors, hire the same people, they could do whatever they want, use whatever production crew, but as a viewer, as a fan, it would still feel connected. Like, okay, whatever we're watching now is connected to those movies I love. And just with a simple narration at the beginning of each episode, I
love it.
And I love the idea that it would kind of be like Samwise telling tales to his kids, in some aspects. So every episode could be totally unique, non-narrative, like those TV shows that you don't have to watch every episode to catch up. It's like you can just watch one episode and Samwise takes you right there. Today we're talking about the elves. Today we're talking about the hobbits. Today we're talking about the dwarves.
Yeah, I dig that. I dig that a lot. Someone just asked me directly in the live chat, 530-64-FRODO. Cliff, who was the guy initially cast as Aragorn, but was let go? And that would be Stuart Townsend. Yeah, and would we want to bring him back? Well, the reason why not him is because he didn't want to even pick up his sword, and he didn't want to do his own fight scenes. He wanted to leave all that heavy lifting to the stunt crew. And I would not want to cast an actor who is allergic to his own sword. That's my opinion on that.
At first, I was gonna go Nick Cage, and then you guys were like Stuart Townsend, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be quiet.
No. I say it's intriguing. The ideas of casting are great, and
this is Stuart Townsend right now
as young Aragorn. Well, now he could play regular old Aragorn now.
Oh, I'm gonna look him up.
Hey, how about Anna Popplewell as Arwen? Let's look up Anna Popplewell. Popplewell. That's from Erewhonu Ndomia on the live chat.
What was she in?
On the hotline. That was on the hotline.
Is that the actress from Narnia? I believe this is her. As Arwen. Yeah, she's definitely got elf looks. Here's the thing. I truly believe that the characters that we know and that are age appropriate, that don't age, should be the same actresses and actors. And Arwen was played by Liv Tyler. Liv Tyler had a very good run on a television show on HBO called The Leftovers. And so we know for a fact that Liv Tyler is open to episodic television, especially tentpole television like this would be. And so I don't think it's beyond expectation to include Ian McKellen, who's been a guest appearance on many TV shows, or Liv Tyler. I think, to your point earlier, Cliff, that the idea of like having these characters come in for one episode, or two episodes as a special guest, everything, every season, I think we could get Ian McKellen as Gandalf and Liv Tyler as Arwen, and I don't think they should be recast because they are the part, they look the part, and I really don't want, aside from our earlier conversations of exploring the young love of Arwen and Aragorn, I think there's something interesting about guest appearances here and there. Yeah,
I love guest appearances. I love the idea, but you walk a fine line if you're going to focus on all new characters like Elladan and Elrohir and people in the time of Arnor fighting against Angmar. There's going to be so many new actors. We're not even going to have this discussion anymore. But if you're going to get really close up to the time before the Fellowship of the Ring, then you're going to enter the stage with, and if they do the hunt for Gollum, that involves not just young Aragorn, but also Gandalf and Thranduil. So who's going to replace Ian McKellen and Lee Pace?
Lee Pace is more of a television actor. Lee Pace has done more television than movies. He just finished a 5-season run on *Halt and Catch Fire*. Of course, everyone loves him in *Pushing Daisies*. So Lee Pace is good for television. In fact, man, if they could get Lee Pace for an ongoing role, sign me up as fast as possible. More
Exactly. We get more of his eyebrows.
More of his attitude.
We never knew what their names were.
More of Thranduil's attitude. Just like too fabulous for you.
Someone on the hotline said, "How about Jeffrey Rush as Gandalf?"
Who actually I could see him as? A Radagast. Don't know why.
Oh yeah.
I could see him as Radagast.
I could definitely see that.
I think Sylvester McCoy would love the work. Honestly,
Oh no, he would. But I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of these actors, Cliff, many of these actors personally, and we're friend. You speak with them all the time, and you're friends with them on Facebook, and you see them in person. You know that many of these Lord of the Rings actors, I would say all of them, would love the work, would love to continue the characters that they've already explored.
They would. Imagine how cool is it going to be to see a lot of our familiar dwarves, the ones that we wanted to get to know better in the Hobbit films, the ones we wanted to spend much more time with. Well, we could see so many of them come back. Graham McTavish and Adam Brown and
And my
And
husband, Richard Armitage.
your husband, well, Richard Armitage died. Sorry, spoiler. But
No.
how
Yeah.
about seeing some of these characters like Ken Stott?
Flashback.
You have to see Ken Stott. Who is going to play
Flashback.
Balin to go back and reclaim Moria? If it's not Ken
Flashback.
Stott, then
That's all I'm going to say. Flashback.
Flashbacks, yes.
to what?
Yeah. See, look, Richard can live on and I can be happy. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe.
like a true
Richard,
fan.
if you're watching this, I'm sorry.
Spoken like a true fan. That's hilarious.
So the question, someone brought up a good point in the chat room. Tim Pugh says, we don't deserve Bombadil yet.
No, we do.
I you know what? Part of me agrees. Like, Bombadil is one of the most anticipated performances in all of fandom. And to use that in the first season, I think would be inappropriate. I think, Cliff, you know this. It people get used to working together, and by the second season, there's a rhythm to the act of creation, the process of developing the TV show. And I think, trying to tackle such a lightning rod of a character such as Bombadil, they should hold off until the second season. Just
Wait, you know what they should do? You know what they should do? I'm sorry, I'm like totally interrupting. I just thought of something. Second season, they're closing out. It's all dramatic. And then you hear his laugh. You see his boots. Cliffhanger right there. They introduce him into the third season.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, there can be a place for Tom Bombadil if there can be a place for, Elrond having totally like a different part of his family that we've never been seen before, never been shown. Is it possible to have the real elf Lord Glorfindel? Can we possibly have Glorfindel come back? Because he's been taken out of the Lord of the Rings every single time it's been adapted. Every time. Except for maybe the audiobook only. But
that's a good point. Hey, Cliff,
the BBC version. But Glorfindel could be like a whole great new elf lord that we could get to know and have adventures with. I think it's cool.
A new heartthrob.
Well, that's going into what I just the next question, because we're getting so many text messages and chat comments about who should play Arwen, and I just want to ask Cliff, aren't there a bunch of other female elf characters that we can explore? Why does everybody want to cast Arwen?
There aren't too many other elf characters except Elrond's wife. I even forget her name now at the moment. I have to look her up. But she had a very tragic end to her story. So, there's Galadriel, and there's
those are the woodland
Arwen.
Elves, though.
And that's why Tauriel was invented, because there's a shortage of female elves that are in these important story roles. And the only ones I can recall are Elrond's wife, the mother of Arwen and Elladan and Elrohir, and then there would be Arwen herself and Galadriel. And what else you got?
I mean, I want more elves. I think the reaction to Tauriel is going to color any creative decision, but
probably.
I don't think that was a bad thing. You've got basically three races of elves. You've got Thranduil's elves, you've got Galadriel's elves, and you've got Elrond's elves. How do you start to differentiate that? Maybe it goes into what Hannah was starting to suggest, which is, choose, cast a certain group of actors for each of those elf groups.
My marker.
I like that idea too. We've got so many possibilities. We've got so many. And here is one of our best possibilities right here. Right here.
Well, let me ask you this, Cliff.
I'm looking at you, Amazon. I'm looking at you.
Hey, we've gone through a huge cast. A lot of these are New York actors that live in New York, that do a lot of Broadway and stage, and they only take roles that are close to home. Same with New Zealand actors, especially. And of course, there's a bunch of British actors, that would jump at the chance to do a cameo because they don't have to travel very far. They could just jump. So let me ask you this: based on who we want to see in this Amazon series, should they film it in New Zealand, or should they film it in England, or should they film it in New York?
I'm gonna say there's nowhere else to film it except New Zealand. Sorry.
I think that's going to exclude a lot of opportunity for guest actors. I don't know. No, you're not going to lose. You got all the actors they needed down in New Zealand. They got them all down there. For 6 different films, they got everybody they wanted down there for filming, and it was great. I wouldn't worry about that. Yeah, but some of all the actors that we've talked about on this show are English or New York actors.
I don't know. I think that you're going to upset a lot of fans if you don't shoot this series in New Zealand. What do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, they need to shoot it in New Zealand. Although I think, sorry, I had a cough. If it's like soundstage stuff, then it doesn't matter. But that's
what I'm saying.
If it's outside, then it has to be in New Zealand.
Yeah, I think you could have a crew go and film, some outdoor stuff in New Zealand. The terrain of New Zealand has to be the terrain of the show. But as we all know, television is shot on sound stages. Like it just is, right? So, like they could shoot in Toronto. It doesn't matter. It's a sound stage. But I'm saying they should film it based on the cast that we would like to see, and that cast should be mostly British.
I'd be fine with a lot of Brits. I would be fine with a lot of Brits. They had a lot of British folks with New Zealand folks.
I wouldn't mind, really, as long as the cast did a good job.
At the end of the day, that's what matters.
Chris Pratt as young Aragorn. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's a joke. No. It's a joke.
Do you believe how fast we moved over, and it's how fast we got the show done? It's 6:30 already, guys. Wow.
No. You're just hallucinating.
That's amazing. Hey, one last from the chat room. One last casting note. Everyone's talking about Jamie Costa as Tom Bombadil. I think he's a Vine star or an Instagram or YouTuber. All those.
Wait, what is his name?
Jamie Costa.
Jamie.
We've got his picture up on the screen now. I just don't think Bombadil should be that pretty.
Oh, heck no.
Or that young.
I like this guy. He does pretty good impressions, but no.
He's very talented, that's true. But
he's really, really talented, but
I would be fine with John C. Reilly. I think John C. Reilly would be a fantastic Bombadil. I love that guy. Let's do it.
Did you see his giant gray beard in Kong Skull Island?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Kong Skull Island was a glimpse into John C. Reilly and his future casting as Tom Bombadil. It really is. Take another look at that.
Dream casting right here. Best casting for Tom Bombadil. John Goodman. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I like that. I like John Goodman too.
I was just great. I was just being funny.
John Goodman would be great as Bombadil. I like that too. Anyways,
funny.
John C. Reilly as
cast. Tom. Yeah, there you go. There's your John C. Reilly. There's your Bombadil right there, guys.
Oh, he's got so much charm. I love it.
I do too.
I still don't like my pick though. No lies.
You still want?
I still want David. just the way that he bounces around, it totally reminds me of like Tom Bombadil.
I love it.
But
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of fans that we don't deserve Tom Bombadil in the first season. Like tease him for the second and third season.
Yep, definitely.
So hey,
guess what? Hey, before we close the show,
yes.
Guess what? I got the coolest thing ever. I got my movie pass.
What is it? $7 a month now?
Guess what? I got my movie pass.
So you can see all the movies you want.
I can see a movie every day. Every day.
Oh, dude, I need to get one of those. Like, my aunt was telling me about it, and I was like,
Yep.
Oh, that's not...
It pays for itself. Very quickly. If you go to movies as much as I enjoy going to the movie theater, it pays for itself. And I bought the whole year in advance. So it was really $6.99 a month for me. $7 a month. I paid all 12 months in advance. And that means I need to go to an IMAX movie only 4 times. And I have paid, and that's $21.75 a ticket to go to IMAX. 2D IMAX. $21.75. So if I go and see 4 times at the IMAX, I've spent my $86. This movie pass has paid for itself. And I'm like, I'm the guy now who's going to be like seeing free movies for the rest of the year.
So wait a second. Isn't it like you see one free movie like every day? Like
you what?
You can go to like a movie theater by your house and be like, hey, I want to be like, okay, yeah, go in.
You download the app.
Uh-huh.
Download the MoviePass app, and you take a look at your map, and it shows you all the movie theaters in Los Angeles that accept MoviePass.
MultiPass.
See this? You could go all over Los Angeles, anywhere and everywhere, and the Bay Areas, and the West Side, and the Valley, and the Inland Empire, and you check in 30 minutes ahead of time, press the movie you want to go see, and then you go and pay for it. It works just like a MasterCard, and you pay for it at the box office, and you're logged in through the app. And MasterCard pays the movie theater for the full price of the admission ticket. And you only paid $10 a month.
My house.
Yep.
Ah.
It's the coolest thing ever. So
look up the MoviePass. Hey guys, as we let you go, I just want to say this week the Avengers Infinity War trailer comes out, where all the Avengers are finally in a movie together, and it's going to be the end of the universe. Yeah. But I will say that after seeing the Vanity Fair pictures and professional portraits and everything that they've released so far, I haven't seen any of the Lord of the Rings actors that are part of the Marvel universe. Cate Blanchett is nowhere to be found. Martin Freeman, Andy Serkis, Lee Pace. So I don't know what's happening. Maybe our favorite Middle-earth actors are going to be part of the next round of
maybe
Marvel.
They'll die.
But I was really missing. So I can't wait to see the trailer and see, who we see, if there's any Middle-earth actors that are going to be in that trailer.
We have yet to see if Andy Serkis or Martin Freeman as characters, if the characters in Black Panther survive that film. We don't even know yet. We know for sure, if speculation and conventional wisdom meet at this intersection, that Cate Blanchett will come back as Hela. Because we never saw her definitively die in Thor Ragnarok.
And she don't die. She's Galadriel with the ring. She is.
Right.
She's my favorite performance of this year.
Yeah. Oh, and her performance was delicious. Boy, she was chewing up the scenery like nobody. I love it.
Exactly.
So we're gonna get the end of Marvel films as we know it, as they reboot the entire universe, before we get our first episode of the new Lord of the Rings series. So to answer a bunch of questions, we're still 2 or 3 years away from seeing more Lord of the Rings on screens, and I think by Comic-Con next year we might have some creative decisions. I don't know if we'll have any casting in place by Comic-Con, But I do think Warner Brothers will have to make some sort of gesture toward the fandoms, and looking forward to it.
Me too.
I'm gonna go on a limb and quote Thranduil. I'm patient.
I think she broke up there a bit. We're losing connection.
Yeah. Oh, we lost the signal, Hannah.
And don't forget Cumberbatch. That's right.
Yeah.
Smaug is in the Marvel Universe as Doctor Strange.
Yes, he is.
Anyway, this has been a great show, and I think there's a lot of perspectives of what this show, the Lord of the Rings show, could be, and I feel really weird that I'm the only one that wants a kind of Riverdale, Marvel Runaways type show. I think that would be super fun, following, an elf, a princess elf, starting to fall for a bad guy man who doesn't want to acknowledge his history, and he's kind of on the run from his past. I think there's something really interesting about that, and I want to see that.
I don't want this to be a bunch of YA trash.
No! What?
However, I will tell you that we do need to explore how Aragorn and Arwen came to be, how they got to the point where we see them in Fellowship. We need to understand more about that.
Yes.
We must understand more about that.
All right.
Somebody in the YouTube chat says they need to get Cliff they need to hire Cliff for ideas.
Hey, Hannah, you get cast, and if they hire me in the writer's room, I'll write all kinds of good stuff for you to do. Okay? Bingo.
And then I'll cry.
All right, Hannah, where can people follow you on social?
What?
Where can people follow you on Twitter and Instagram?
Well, you see, if you type in Wendy's, no, I'm just kidding. On Instagram, you can follow me as Baggins is here, and on wow, I totally blanked out again. On Twitter, you can follow me at Cimmerillion28. You can see all my Kermit stuff, all of it.
Love it.
I love Kermit. No joke. I'm serious. Hold on. No joke. You'll see the extension of my Kermit.
Oh, yes, I love that.
So much. No joke.
There's
That's
no
so
room
cute. I love
for
all the
Kermit
stuff.
in Middle Earth. I'm telling you right now.
There's no... I thought we were inclusive.
The frogs?
Not being green.
Kermit as Gollum? Cliff, where can people find you?
Too much. You guys are too much.
Cliff, you're on Twitter and Instagram.
We are signing off. Kermit and Hannah, you guys are too cute for me. I'm able to be found on Instagram and Twitter at QuickBeam2000. QuickBeam 2000. That's me.
Awesome. And you can follow us on all the platforms as The One Ring Net, and keep those ideas flowing. We can tell you absolutely that the powers that be are paying attention to what the fans say, and they're on our message boards, because we can see the traffic logs and we can see where people are logging in from, and they're logging in from studios. So they are paying attention to what the fans have to say. So keep the discussions going at theonering.net.
Okay, if they're paying attention, then hold on.
That's hilarious.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They are paying attention.
They're watching.
Thank you for a fantastic show, Justin and Hannah.
Yes, this has been wonderful, and
I'll be the new caller.
And I've got so many. I can't believe no one's on Team Riverdale right now.
You're all alone, Justin. You're all alone.
I'm all alone. Anyways, we'll see you next week at 5 p.m. Pacific, right here at theonering.net/live. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.
You guys, Thank you all for joining. We'll see you next week.
Farewell.
Bye.